This little extract will be familiar to you from the time when we had that talk from the Globe. And we noticed really is here a back and forth between Ophelia and Polonius. You could almost contrast it to the previous scene in which Laertes has lectured Ophelia. This is rather more brutal, more full of imperatives, more terminal. It has much more implication for the rest of the plot. He's much more explicit about the defense of virtue. You do not understand yourself so clearly, he says, as it behooves my daughter and your honour. What is between you? Give me up the truth. Curiously, Polonius does actually give Ophelia more chance to speak. However, when she does speak, Polonius is very quick to mock her. There is that taunting use of repetition. After expressed his suspicion and also kind of seconding, back channeling, we sometimes call it, Laertes. Marriott well bethought, that is to say, he's approving Laertes. And now Polonius is going off the rumour, 'tis told me he hath very oft of late given private time to you. 'Tis told to me, does hint at that world of espionage. It shows that Polonius, the Walsingham figure, the spy master, nothing really gets past him. Old twit though he may look, he's got eyes everywhere. If you look at the Kenneth Branagh production in which Richard Briers plays Polonius, he is lovely, charming Richard Briers in his dealings with Laertes, and a rather more brutal, blunt, demanding, even cruel person with Ophelia. And it's borne out by the language, to be fair to Ken and to Richard Briers. So look at what happens. He hath, my lord, of late made many tenders of his affection to me. There she is, being very frank, very straightforward, very factual, very declarative. Affection? Pooh! Again, we have a kind of non-verbal here, like Hamlet's 5-5, dismissal. You speak like a green girl. And he actually manages to quote back both of the words. Tenders, affection, both of the actual nouns she uses, he picks up and mocks. Then he starts playing with the phrase, with the word tender, in that way that shows him not quite as a fool, but fond of his own words. He's almost the kind of person who would use his own language and then mock it and challenge it. Look at the many ambiguities, the words he gets out, or the senses he gets out of the word tenders. You could, if you really had to, call it a large lexical field. You have taken these tenders for true pay. So tenders is a financial term. If you tender somebody a £10 note or a coin, then you're offering it to them. But it does have that pun on tenderness, tendresse, and Polonius uses tender in the sense of offering, or tenders for true pay. They're not really worth the money they're printed on, these avowals of love. Tender yourself more dearly. That is to say, and this is a horrible image, make yourself more, if you are going to be a woman of easy virtue, at least do it for a decent price. Be worth a bit more. Don't spend too much time. Having delivered that bombshell, he then footlingly goes to enjoy his own wit rather than appreciate the cruelty that he's just delivered. Or not to crack the wind, the poor phrase, wronging it thus, you'll tender me, as in render me, turn me into a fool. Again, Ophelia has her kind of two-line, or not quite two-line, she's cut off. My lord, he hath importuned me with love in honourable fashion. Note that she's defending Hamlet. She's actually a very useful compass on how we should see Hamlet. Here, she sees him as honourable. Later, she sees him as mad. Already, you can see Ophelia playing that role that the sources have her play, of a means by which we gain information out of someone who is either being deceptive or secretive or both. That is to say, Hamlet, who puts on his antic disposition. Remember that it's Ophelia who has that first description of Hamlet in with his garters undone and walking backwards as if painting her. Now, looking ahead at Polonius and thinking about Ophelia as the Ophelia of the sources, he hath, says Ophelia, my lord, given countenance to his speech with almost all the holy vows of heaven. She takes him for real. She takes appearance as being reality. Polonius does not. Even though he's aware that the apparel often doth proclaim the man, he now here thinks that Hamlet is pulling a fast one. Aye, springes to catch woodcocks. It's a trap. It's that language of ensnaring, of ambushing, that actually points us towards, again, the role that Ophelia plays in the sources. That is to say, the woman who elicits the truth out of Hamlet. We are allowed, I think, to be nauseated by the speed with which Polonius allows her to be manoeuvred into that position. And he now is almost... The irony here is that he's telling Ophelia to avoid him. I would not in plain terms, and this is Polonius being frank, from this time forth have you so slander any moment leisure as to give words or talk with the Lord Hamlet. He's actually banned them from speaking to each other. This he presents, you remember, to the Queen and the King as a kind of scoop. What do you take me for? This is a kind of piece of expertise on his behalf. Note again Ophelia saying, I shall obey, my lord. She is overruled, she's silenced. She does have the last word, but it is I shall obey, my lord. It's not I will obey, as in not I want to obey. It's not that intentive use of the future tense. It is simply the straight future. However things turn out, this is the way it's going to be, whether I want it or not. And there it is. The line is unfinished. The scene is almost unfinished. It is hypometrical. It's left hanging. And this, almost as usefully as a rhyme might at the end of a scene, tell us that a plot point is at play.